Oh, sorry. Are you ready, Susan?
Oh, sure. I'm just as ready as could be.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this January 23rd, 2019 regular board meeting of the Pullman School District. Let's begin with our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Something
Oh my
to be aware
God,
of.
we're going
Okay.
green.
Yes, we are.
Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, there are two changes to take note. They were last minute. Apologize for that. One is that we've tabled 3226, which I think was earlier put in the packet, so that has been tabled and removed to make sure that we get all the updates corrected. In addition, under personnel, there were two last-minute addendums that were added, so just so you note that. No. Regular one, so. Those should be the only changes.
All right. Thank you.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to reports, correspondence, and program. There is no PHS ASB report here, I'm assuming. Or there is no
They are
representative.
missing.
Okay, perfect. Board reports then. Let's be, are you able to begin or?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
try. I, of course, was counting on the Pullman High School ASB person to be here to give the Pullman High School what's going on. But the legislature, our legislator, never mind. We're underway, making decisions and that sort of thing. I think Nathan probably knows more than I do about this, but I do want to point out that WASDA, WSSDA.org, has a weekly webinar and weekly updates on what's going on in the legislative session as regards to education, and WASDA thinks so. It's a very thorough and pretty neat. So if you want, you can go and sign up for the weekly webinars. You can check out, they record the webinars, or they have the legislative update webpage. So if you are interested in all, and I know Nathan is fascinated with all this, you can go and check it out. And then we all got the email about the State Board of Education and their strategic plan and that sort of thing. So I haven't really had a chance to look at it in depth, but they're still sticking with their 24 credits. So I'll work on that. Take them out. Anyway, so that's I apologize for not having any updates on what's going on at Pullman High School. Stupid work has been getting in the way. So, but I have to eat. So there we go. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Roberts?
The work tends to do that, I think.
Yeah.
So no, I've been occupied really with just trying to figure out what my role is on the WASDA Legislative Committee lately. There's a weekly meeting every Thursday, and given that the legislature just started, I'll be attending tomorrow to find out what's going on. There are some interesting things. I know that there is a redistricting policy in the works at some point, and I don't know how far it'll get. I think they're kind of thinking it won't because it's been tried before, evidently. But I think, especially right now, given that there's so many districts in kind of financial stress, the talk of redistricting could be couched in a new light as a cost-saving measure. So I think a lot of, especially middle to smaller school districts, are concerned. Probably not something we in particular should be concerned about, but just one of the things I found interesting. But I will definitely probably have a better report next. And otherwise, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Director?
No report this evening.
All right. Director Sanders?
Lincoln Middle School has a dance this coming Friday, Blast from the Past, where they're supposed to dress or mimic the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s for a couple hours. And there'll be snacks and party favors, so hopefully they have a good turnout and fun.
Is it amusing with the 90s? Wow, okay. Thank you. And I'll report on several topics. First of all, you all should have received an invitation to the JES Green recognition. You may not have had a chance. It came yesterday, I think, over email. But it was the Jefferson PTA president mailing all of us an invitation to attend their Green Recognition Assembly. That would be fine if every single one of us were to show up, because we would not be discussing board business at an assembly, just FYI if you're interested. And then that also includes a tour of their outdoor learning lab in progress. So that's one thing to be aware of. Another thing, we have agreed as a board to conduct our self-assessment in odd-numbered years. So we are due for a self-assessment now. For those who have done it before, it's, as a reminder, it's a Likert scale type thing that measures how well we are adhering to WASDA's standards. And in the past, we've had different numbers of people take the assessment, and I've decided I would like to include the team of people here who works most closely with the board so that we can incorporate all that feedback. So for all of you, Bob, Roberta, Diane, Shannon, and Joe, you'll be receiving a link to this survey. And again, it's completely anonymous. It's about the WASDA school board standards, and it's fine to say you don't know if there's something that you don't know. Also, could be, especially depending on what issues we address in a particular year, there could be some standards that we don't have that much interaction. So that will be coming soon. And so the magic number is 10. I'm hoping we get 10 responses as quickly as possible so I can close the survey and have WASDA tabulate. So if we fail to get to 10 after a week, I will be sending reminders, and no one wants that. So let's just try and get that done. Let's see. The one other thing, in case you have not heard, the WASDA elections, as you know, I'm on the nominations. The WASDA elections were a whole adventure in and of themselves, and the person who was elected to be the incoming vice president.
Thailand.
No. That was last year. He, as you all know, resigned to take a seat in the legislature. So this year's incoming vice president, Representative Matt Manueller from Ellensburg, was asked to resign his seat. And so our incoming vice president, Alex Ibarra, was appointed to fill that seat. So now there will have to be a special election again to fill this seat, which seems to have plagued many of our WASDA officer positions. People are positions in the legislature. So that will be coming up, and we're going to do our best to get that filled as quickly as possible, but also in a fair and transparent manner. I've heard that at least 3 candidates from Eastern Washington are interested in the position, and I kind of wonder if maybe Harmon might be one of them, since he couldn't be on the board any longer because he kicked out. So watch for that. Do, of course, vote early and often, and then, because it won't be long before we'll have another regular election.
You know how they're going to arrange the election?
It's going to be exactly the same process, but in a much shorter timeline. Our legal counsel has advised that the process is exactly the same.
Fairness and all.
Yeah, so that's happening.
Hopefully they get the picture right.
Oh, my God. Yes, and well, that was the other thing is Tim was just saying, yes, we understand your need to expedite it, but you don't understand the incredible pressure all the WASDA staff under at all times things together for the membership, and that's how mistakes get made.
Yep.
So he's very resistant to anything that's going to be rushing the process at all because they don't want. They have now, by the way, as a result of that mistake, they have now implemented a proofing process in the office where 4 different people look at something. Great. Yeah, okay. Superintendent's report.
All right. Well, to start off the superintendent's report, I'd like to have our board members up front here so we can get a photo op because, as you know, January is School Recognition Month, and I have your nicely redesigned certificate. So if you could join me up at the front here, we'll get a quick...
Jeez, curb your enthusiasm.
All right,
It's there. Let's all hide behind Jim.
Yes.
You want the lights on brighter?
Yeah, and then the screen on.
There you go. Okay.
Um,
Mr. Everman?
No
come on
email
over.
from Sunnyside, or from Jefferson.
All right.
And you haven't sent out the email
Want
about
up your
the
name
survey?
then?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I
good.
will
But
after tonight's meeting. I'll forward that one from Erica.
All right.
Oh, it's no big deal.
Now you have to get a little closer because Shannon needs to get a shot, so. Congratulate you for all your hard work. Jim, you gotta turn your certificate out. There you
We haven't
go.
done this before.
I know you're a little rusty.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Let's fix the passing situation. Thank you. Because I had changed it on the computer thinking I changed it everywhere, and I went and used that same password again.
Do you frame them all and
Mine didn't
tech
work.
support right there?
Mine didn't work.
Okay. Well, while we're pulling up the lighting, I will pass around the folder. You'll notice that the election department has bestowed upon me the duty to notify those school board members that will be up for re-election in the fall, which would be Allison, Jim, and Susan. So please take a look at the document that'll be coming around. There you are. Why that's... Oh, let's back up. All right. So next construction update, Kamiak Elementary. So that's continued to come along very nicely. We're down to working on basically finished work on the inside. As spring approaches and the weather gets nicer, we'll be able to finish the outside, which is mostly landscaping, installation of the playgrounds, some fence work, outside stuff. So, but we're getting closer to that. We'll be starting to arrange tours of the site, and that will include some activities for our elementary students, K through grades 4. So we had a planning meeting today, have some activities developed, as well as welcoming activities for all the students that will be moving to new schools. So stay tuned for more information to come.
So there'll be open houses or activities for each school.
We're calling them a welcome night.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course we'll still have the traditional before school welcome back. But we're going to do something in the spring. So we're working on dates and we'll be getting some more information out. Along with that, one of the other things I just want to do a quick update on is, as you know, we've been working on finishing up our recruiting and hiring manual, which I believe all of you have an opportunity to see. Again, we've compiled this based on hiring manuals from our insurance carrier Clear Risk, WASA workshop, presentation by attorneys, as well as our own board policies and procedures and best practices used in education in other districts. So I think we have a really nice manual that lays out our process, lays out all the pieces of the interview as well as the appendix, which provides some sample job postings, as well as the forms that we use in the hiring process, and a link to our board policy. With that, one of the new things that has come out based on feedback and best practices is an interview training session. And so I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what that will contain, and our first training will be tomorrow afternoon. So,
Can I ask a,
sure.
did a for volunteer?
Not yet. I have not received any replies back at this particular
I'm
time.
leaving town tomorrow, so I can't do the interview training, so, hooey.
I can make
Otherwise,
one of these, if you guys need a board member there.
Okay. And then you're available on the day of the.
When is the interview?
February 8th, all day.
February 8th is all day. There is one, and I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we do
then-
have one on the 7th as well.
I'd be glad to. What happens if you know one of the people that was interested? I have no idea if she's going to go on to the interview process or anything, but would I just recuse myself at that one? Or?
You could if you'd like, yes.
Okay.
Then
So-
it's on a off. I'll let you can't let me know.
No,
I also
I
have
can
a
take it.
question.
It's
Is
okay.
it a good idea for us to attend one of these trainings just in case we're on a committee in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I think the email said it's good for 3 years.
But we changed that to 5.
Okay.
So one of the changes was we changed it to 5 years, so you only have to do it once every 5 years. Or if significant things would change, we would require new training. So we do have, I think I have 4 or 5 trainings set up right now before the Franklin principal interview. But as we know, we're getting into spring, so there'll be more trainings offered. We just wanted to get a variety in on a short timeline.
It might just be something good for us to have taken
Absolutely.
care of so
Yeah.
that we're not
Taking
rushing.
care of it, so if something
Yeah.
does come up and you're available. And typically, we've had board members on administrative postings or interviews. Not always, but it's always nice to have at least a board member present. So,
How are the parent volunteers going to take the training?
we're sending out an email as well to each school that has an administrative opening so that they know when the training dates are, so they're listed in the email.
Okay, so the parents that volunteer, they're going to be contacted to tell them they need to train, or
They'll know that they can see the dates, they'll know that the interview date is this, the training dates are these, they need to be able to make it to both in order to put their name in. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, great question. So just a quick overview, I'm not going to go through the whole PowerPoint, but just so you know, the objectives, of course, of the training ensure a legally compliant selection process, make sure the hiring process is seamless, and of course, ensure the district hires the best and most qualified candidates, which is per our policy. This has been a collaborative effort, so of people and resources. This has been developed with feedback. It incorporates multiple resources. The WASA hiring workshop, which was presented by a school attorney, Clear Risk Solutions, who's our insurance carrier. They also have a hiring, what they call hiring smart manual. Best practices used by other school districts, and of course, our board policy and procedures are now all incorporated into one document and also one training. Just to give you a sense of what is involved in the training, we have, it's very activity-based, so there's going to be an overview of employment law, which can be pretty boring, but we've developed some activities to hopefully engage people in that process. A review of the interview and hiring process, an activity to look at candidate competencies, and what that involves is taking a look at our job postings and really taking a look at what are the things that we are looking for within certain positions, whether that be a certificated teacher, a paraeducator, or a building administrator. There will also be an interview questions quiz, and so one of that involves there are questions that you can ask and questions that you cannot ask. And so again, just to review so people know why we may not ask certain questions or why we do ask certain questions. Then there'll be an activity later on in the training which will involve writing interview questions. One of the things we receive a lot of times is staff are interested in submitting questions. And so one of the things that we're going to, this will be two parts. One will help us to practice writing interview questions. The other will be some of these interview questions we're hoping that we can use as a bank for the future. And so we can mix up our selection of questions in different positions. So that'll be an activity based. Then we're also, later on, we're going to have a practice interview. And one of the things that we've received a lot of feedback from staff was when we're in those interviews, we always have the question and then we have look fors. Sometimes we're trying to practice what are we actually looking for with that question. And so this is going to be an activity where we practice listening to answers and matching that up with what we believe we look for. And so that was one of the things that teachers really had a lot of feedback of wanting to have some more practice in that particular area. Also, then they would go into some responsibilities of the interview team and then kind of the end of the process, kind of making that job offer and how that process is. So, like I said, we've had multiple trainings set up in the next 2 weeks. That's to prepare specifically for the Franklin, but we will be offering these periodically throughout the spring so that people have multiple opportunities. Because I know everybody has things before school, after school, different dates, so that everybody has a chance that if they're interested in serving in a future interview team, they should be able to find a training that matches their skills. And we want to get it well established and get some practice so we can refine this process. Any questions on the hiring manual or the training module that we put together? Well, thank you. Out of this. I think I was going to.
Bob, should we make an appointment to attend one of these training sessions or just show up?
We're asking that people RSVP so we make sure we have enough room in the trainings and enough materials. So if you're
Shannon?
Yes, or Dagny.
It says Dagny.
Yeah,
Dagny.
there was an email.
Yeah, you should have received an email. So, like I said, if none of the current ones, don't worry about it. We'll be offering more in the future. So, and we'll try to vary those. So if there's a day that works better for you, let us know ahead of time. We can see if we can schedule one. We're anticipating this will be an hour and a half. I'm not quite sure. We haven't done it yet, so it might be a little bit shorter. I don't think it's so much longer, but like I said, this is our initial exploration into this. So we're hoping that this will meet. My last item is hopefully you've had a chance to look at this. So one of the things I went back based on some of our conversations, and I kind of did a review of history. So I went back through the years of different packets, different ways that we've assigned. And so what I've learned is typically, historically, in December of each year, board members notify the board president of their interest in the following committees. There have typically been 4. Finance, WIA representative, legislative representative, and there was a policy and procedure committee. That kind of has evolved away and become more of an administrative task rather than this committee. And as things have evolved, we've typically had a board member participating on our curriculum advisory committee or council, I think I said here. that makes sense to me because that's one of the major jobs of the board. And so one of the things that I thought that since we've had a board member on that, that should probably be a standing appointment. Safety is a new one. Given the nature of our environment right now, that might be one that would be a standing. Communications, that's new. And strategic plan steering, that's new, but of course that one will not be an ongoing one. So in January of each year, the board president would assign directors to the above committee or representative positions. My recommendation would be to continue to operate policy and procedure development as an administrative task. It allows us to keep, I'll use the word keep up loosely with all the new board policies and procedures that seem to come every other month. My second recommendation would be, again, to assign a representative to the CAC, Safety Committee. Communication Advisor and Strategic Plan are already assigned. And in our typical finance, WIA, ledge reps. There was a question about reviewing the warrants, and so that's really a scheduling. So Shannon schedules that each year, and so the monthly warrant audits are more of a scheduling, not necessarily an assignment by the board president. Optional district committees would be, if interested, wellness, highly capable, English language development, and I also put some new ones here, which is grade level content leaders. That's new. Report card does not meet every year. Affirmative action does not meet every year, and technology does not meet every year. But those would be optional district committees that the board may be interested in and also participate. So I tried to make it concise and hopefully informative for the board. I know it's later on in the agenda today, but I wanted to give you an overview in case you had questions before we got to that discussion.
So I have a question. Even though the bottom committees are optional, do we have any intent of trying to have somebody for those, or?
Typically, it's been if someone's if a board member's had a particular interest in
So if somebody isn't on one of those committees,
it's fine. It's not required. It's not a standing committee, but if you're interested, here's the other district committees that we do have available. And I only included the district ones because then there's a whole host of building ones. And typically, board members do not serve on building committees, so I did not. Other questions or clarifications I could help with?
No, that makes sense to me. I did have a question on the any updates on when?
We've received a set of reports this week, and Shannon's been trying to, one of the other topics I was going to talk about, so good lead in. So one of the things that I believe it takes about a day to go over. The company comes in and reviews that. Correct?
Yeah, we're working on scheduling.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So we have the notebooks, they're here, but you really need to have them go through it to help understand a lot of how they code everything, put things together and talk about that. But we do they just came in this.
Do you guys think like February, or when do you think?
They mentioned something about they're out to March, but they may be willing to work with us if we can find a date. My original idea would be to have the board, building administrators, and maybe PEA leadership all together at the same time to hear the presentation. That said, that's a pretty grandiose plan to get everybody for a whole day in one place. It may not work out that way, but in the past, and this is years ago when I've worked with them, typically they would come and do a day at the district and then literally go do a half day with each building. So it's,
So the buildings, the staff and building administrators will be given that presentation opportunity. I mean,
that's what I would recommend. I think that's something that we probably need to talk about and see how we want to proceed and what their recommendation may be. In the past, that's what I've observed, which seems to make sense because you have the outside party that collected the data is able to explain the metrics, explain the codes, the keys, the end values, and answer the question. That would be my recommendation. Trying to schedule that's going to be a whole nother, and maybe it's a shortened thing, maybe it's an hour presentation. You know, I don't know. That trying to fit that in is going to be quite a.
Is there going to be an abridged or condensed version that can be sent out to people, or is it all this book catalog?
It's pretty dense catalog. Not a whole lot of sweet summaries. So that in
So the 5-pager is not a
English.
thing that.
Yeah, at least that,
Yeah,
from what
we'll
I've
be
seen.
working on putting together enough
Okay.
of the data. They do have it broken down by district level staff office. Cool. 6 separate reports, and then we have one that consolidates all of the data together. Broken down by question, and then also category.
So then they have exhaustive
It's broken
breakdowns
down
for
so
everything.
differently. So as we review the data, I think format like question.
And do they mind if we use it however we like? Are there any restrictions on, like, taking some of it and putting it in a document or anything like that?
Nope, it's ours.
No.
Thank you all very much.
I think when you see it, you're going to see how
Oh, I imagine, yeah. I can kind of imagine, but
it's a lot. Yeah, it's quite a bit. Any other questions? If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
yeah, thank you very much.
The next section is the visitors section. This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. The board will listen and may offer clarification, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Please keep your comments civil and respectful and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We have no visitors signed in to speak, but visitors, would either of you care to address the board? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, budget status report, overnight field trip requests, personnel report, ASB fundraisers, professional and personal services contract report, warrants, and transfer requests. And I would now entertain a motion
I
regarding.
move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to action items. The action items have been previously discussed by the board, and the board will now take action by motion. Our first action item this evening is board representatives and committees, which we have just heard about. And I asked for volunteers. Some of you have volunteered for some committees. looks like finance has already been appointed, so if it's agreeable, we'll continue on with Nathan and Jim on finance.
Yes, please.
Okay. The WIAA representative, I reviewed the annual enrollment procedure for that. The resolution gets completed by the second Friday in June. It's something we typically take action on in May, so there's no need to appoint a representative right now. And several of you have volunteered, and I do think that WIAA may become more interesting in the future, but now is actually not the right time to appoint someone to that committee. So let's pause on that one.
And the current rep is Jim, correct?
No, it's currently me.
And then I'm the alternate.
Yes. Yeah.
Why, now, is there a reason why we don't make it consistent and do that along with everything else?
Because you fill it out in June, or it's an annual.
Yes, I know, but all I'm saying is that with all the things going on, I think someone who knows that they're going to be on that committee would then want to pay attention to just all the emails and stuff that are going out now to make it so that then when they are reappointed or appointed, they would know what's going on. And it just makes it easier, I think, for all of us to be consistent, to just do it in one
I think it's a fair point. Yeah.
fell swoop, whatever
Okay.
it is.
So both Nathan and Amanda have expressed to me interest in the work of the WIAA, but I would say it just sort of depends. Nathan, you're already on a number of committees.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So could we put you on?
Well, I mean, once we kind of emailed back and forth about it, I was a little bit less interested in it.
Oh.
If you, well, but you also had a point of it seemed to affect like the age of your children a little bit more than my children.
That
so
was
you had
how
a
I
little bit
got
more
involved. But now is a
interest.
good time, you know.
So if you're interested in continuing in that role, I would be totally fine with that.
I wouldn't say that I'm particularly interested. So it just.
All right, I'll do it.
I mean, I can do it too. If you're on several things.
But I was going to say, we're going to need to talk about the rest of them. We're going to talk the primary.
It isn't really, the thing of it is, there's the emails, there are resolutions each year. The resolutions could have impact, but truly it is Chris Franklin.
Well, and that was
Yeah.
going to be my next
Who
question is,
is-
would I be working with Chris on this?
Yes,
Okay.
Chris Franklin is going to know the ins and outs of this, and he is fully prepared to make recommendations on behalf of Pullman School District.
I'll go ahead and do it, Nathan.
Okay,
If
thanks.
you're comfortable with
Okay,
Oh, yeah, please do.
okay.
Yes.
So
Later.
I appoint you as our future.
Okay.
I am still the name on the record for right now until our current agreement ends, but we'll be re-upped
Okay.
undoubtedly. So, perfect.
And I gotta have Chris CC you on important. He's
Okay.
gonna keep the board pretty well informed because there's a lot of,
Yeah, I appreciated
Yeah.
that presentation because I read about it in the spokesman, and it seems like they're kind of
So-
upset about the whole.
Yes,
so you're gonna see a lot more email.
Yeah.
And-
which is good. We need
And
to
I'll
stay
keep that
informed.
coming,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Chris will keep that coming up, so
I'm
Yeah.
happy to work with Chris.
you'll keep
Okay.
aware.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So, let's see. Oh, a curriculum advisory council or committee. Amanda, you are appointed. And safety, Jim, is that something you'd like to continue working on?
I just got assigned, and I like where to go.
Okay. Perfect. So,
Communications is new and may be continuing. I think the
Yeah.
desire was to continue that, and the strategic planning, I think, has already been appointed.
yeah, those I would say are ongoing at this time. So I don't think there's
Need to appoint anyone.
so we're down to legislative representative. Susan, you are currently our legislative representative.
I don't mind staying on, but it makes, I think, more sense to have Nathan if he's going to be doing monthly or weekly phone calls and that sort of thing. It's going to be much more top of mind for Nathan
Okay,
than it does for me. It's not going to be any more extra work for him. It just means that he there gets to
okay,
just do a little more reporting at
Okay.
board meetings.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
But I think, hopefully, I mean, if you
No,
don't
that's
want to,
fine.
it just seems kind of redundant to have.
No, that makes sense. I've actually
poor
wondered
old
how
lady.
that works, honestly, because we would be saying the same thing over and over. So
Exactly.
it's,
Okay, okay.
Only
So
he'd say
Susan,
it
you're,
better.
you're on the strategic plan steering committee. Was there another place that you felt you wanted to be
If there's a
involved?
hole somewhere, just throw me in there. It's fine.
Okay. I think we're covered for now, but I may call upon you at a,
So the communications committee will stay you and I, or?
I think so, unless
Okay.
I mean, I kind of feel like continuity might be good since
Okay.
that only has met 4 times and.
Yeah, no, that works fine.
Okay.
So just so I'm clear, the finance, ledge rep, and then communications, and then steering. Right?
Strategic
And that's our
planning.
strategic
Yes.
planning, the steering
Yes.
committee.
Steering.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. All right,
Yep.
just making sure.
Yeah,
And I will say that he's also on a couple of, you're on the legislative
Yeah, I know, it's just piling on, it's great.
committee for WASDA. And I am on a couple of WASDA.
Yes, I know you
2
are.
WASDA committees and then an OSPI committee. So
Yeah.
didn't want people to think I'm sloughing off.
no,
Oh, no,
I
not at
know.
all.
And it is such a huge help, and I think it's really important for Pullman, from our director area, to be a leader in that way. So I really appreciate your service at the WASDA level, which you're right, many people wouldn't know. So, yeah, it's a lot of traveling.
Yes, it is. It's not just a couple-hour meeting. It's a
No.
whole day in Olympia. It's,
Yes.
well,
I feel your pain.
we
All
can do
right,
that
well,
couple
I
weeks.
think
That's good.
that
Get our whole
gets us
rim.
where we need to be.
That's great.
Amanda also expressed an interest in wellness, and I am not willing to give up wellness, so, but we wouldn't be a quorum.
Nope.
Having
you can
2
have
of
2.
us
Yep.
show up, so we decided that we would probably do that. So heads up, you'll be having board members, wellness committee. And so any of those other optional committees, just let Bob know.
Sorry,
And he
just
can hook you up.
So Allison, who's on the strategic steering?
That's Nathan and
Nathan and
Susan.
Susan.
And
We have a meeting arranged, right, in late February?
February 14th is from what I
Okay.
understand.
Oh, yeah, 'cause
it's Valentine's
It's
Day.
Valentine's Day.
Yep.
What a
so I
way.
imagine
5
we'll be
o'clock,
getting
5:30.
updates about the strategic plan soon.
Yep.
And should we, do you think we should meet before that to talk?
We
Just
can
so that
if
we
we
can
want.
make that meeting useful?
Yep.
Because I just don't want to come with not knowing
We can do that.
that. Oh, come on, you didn't think it was going to be more meetings?
Yeah, meetings are us. No, I just,
Well,
it's fine.
I'm always up for a meeting, so.
okay.
Actually, do you have, I know I must have a notebook somewhere, a copy of the result of our last strategic planning
I'm
effort?
sure Shannon could find it in our
It
archives.
might be I served, I finally got rid of the one.
I'm sure we can find copies.
2000. Okay, well, I just think that Nathan, having not done this before, it might be an idea to look at, and and it's a good starting point, I think, for any of us, rather than trying to reinvent the whole
Oh, I'm
wheel,
totally about that, yeah,
to
for
just
sure.
look
Yeah.
at that and see where we think changes might be. So that might be the best thing to do, planning-wise. So, yeah.
We can do that.
Good idea. All right. Thank you.
I actually had a lot of fun on that. They seem like good.
Let's move on to our next policy. This is policy 2030, service
find it.
animals in schools,
Oh, I know,
presented
right?
by
It's such a
Superintendent Maxwell.
all over the place.
Oh, yeah, for the appointments, we probably need to make an official action. So.
Didn't
we'll
I
do a
just
roll call.
appoint them?
Oh, the appointment.
Do we
so
need
to
don't
vote?
need to take an
We're
action.
done.
That's right.
with that.
No.
Okay. No, I appreciate
No.
your concern for doing it the right way,
Yeah,
but
make
to
sure we
me,
do
an
it.
appointment is an appointment.
appointment.
And I did it in a public manner.
You got to gavel
so-
it, though.
Yeah.
You could slap it if you want.
You got to gavel it, or it's not official.
All right.
All right, 2030, service animals.
All right, so we talked about this at our last board meeting, so I'll kind of go over the quick summary. So this is an update to existing WASDA policy. Updates include the following: define service animals, a dog or miniature horse, trained to do a work or task. So it's really, they're narrowing the definition of a service animal. Adds to the definition of a disability, intellectual and psychiatric. notes that a civil infraction it is a civil infraction to represent an animal as a service animal, and that's typically when you find people that have comfort animals. They're not service animals. So it also defines what's already in law, but apparently hasn't been clear enough that a principal may make the determination if an animal qualifies as a service animal. There are two questions they can ask. That's if the animal is required because of a disability and what work or task the animal has been trained to perform. So really it's just clarifying some specifics that already exist in our existing policy.
I will move that we approve policy 2030, service animals in school.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 2030, service animals in schools. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Oh,
Was there discussion?
Well, I was just thinking, when these animals are on site, is there any veterinary?
Veterinary care is the handler's responsibility,
Okay.
but they also have to show proof of vaccinations and
Okay, so
immunizations.
I wanted to make sure.
Oh, that we're not responsible for the care of the service
Well,
animals.
or if an animal were to bite another person. And there's all sorts of,
And if a service animal at all, at any time appears aggressive or that is one of the things we can revoke.
That's in the procedure?
That's in the procedures.
Okay.
And also, if they're not able to take care of the animal, body of that, that's the handler's responsibility as well. So we're not required to, we just have to have a space.
Okay. Well, what I heard is that we voted, but then we had this little, it already voted.
I had to,
I
will
revote.
vote no. Aye.
Okay.
Here, here.
All right, thank you. Next, discussion of policy 2336, required observance. Presented by Assistant Superintendent Kramer.
So this has not been changed from the last time that I presented it to you as board. It shifts it deletes some language and then more specifically includes the language related to voter registration in history and social studies classes. So that's the change.
I move that we approve policy 2336 as presented.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 2336, required observances. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right. Those revisions are approved. Thank you. Moving on to policy 3141, non-resident students.
44. Right?
No,
no, 3141.
Oh, no, it's the next one. Sorry, my bad.
3144.
Apologize.
3141.
Now I'm saying it.
I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
Excuse me,
I'd already
policy
turned the page. So
3141. So again, this says classification is essential. This was in the December issue of 2018 WASDA sample policy update. You might have had an opportunity to read that article. So the changes are listed here for your reference. Annual notification of interdistrict enrollment options, that's current practice. We do that on our website, which satisfies the requirement. We do not charge any transfer fees or tuition costs to non-resident students. We must use the standard choice transfer system in the education database system, EDS. That's current practice, so that's no change. Addition standard for rejecting an application, they did add one. There are 4 currently. The 5th one would be if a student has repeatedly failed to comply with requirements for participation in an online school program. Most of the curriculum changes to this, the 2 are on online programs. And so that's the notice. The big change is the application denial. So they have the right to appeal to the superintendent of public instruction or designee, or appeal to the district superintendent or designee. Our previous provision, and my recommendation was to remove that would be a hearing before the board. And I think it rightly so should go to the superintendent of instruction or to the district superintendent, rather than a board hearing. Unless you would really prefer a board hearing, then
Okay, I will move that we approve the revised policy 3141 regarding non-resident students.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 3141, non-resident students. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, those revisions are approved. Now we move on to policy 3144, release of information concerning student sexual interest.
thank you. So again, this one was listed originally as encouraged and then listed as essential. There was an article regarding this policy, and that was in the December 2018 issue of Laws of Policy and Legal News. We currently do not have this specific policy. We have elements of it, but the guidance really is more legal requirements. I mean, we have to, building's principal responsibility when they receive notification. We have to make sure that we are passing along that confidential information to any staff members that may have a legitimate reason to know. We also clarifies how we would deal with inquiries from the public, which the public does not have necessarily the rights to know specific information. Students have rights, whether or not they've been naughty or misbehaved. So it develops the written procedure for school principals, which we have. It also just updates the new legal reference.
So I have a hard time wrapping my head around this whole situation. It seems very complicated and uncomfortable. But it was always my understanding that if somebody is a registered sex offender, that they can't be anywhere within so much distance from school. Is that when they're a minor, are they not considered a registered sex offender?
They could be a registered sex offender, but they also still have the obligation to attend school. They do not have the right to attend school if their victim attends that school. So typically, a judge will order them to attend a school or attend in another district.
And because our district doesn't offer one of those programs for troubled teenagers, they would come. Is that correct?
Even if you had an alternate high school, they still would have the right to a general education.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I understand the importance of having this taken care of. I just, the whole thing is hard for me to...
Yeah. The one nice thing is it doesn't happen very often.
Thankfully.
But there are cases, and then we typically try to work with the family. We try to work with the student to really try to develop an educational program that will fit their needs. And sometimes it might be a blended program, for example, where maybe they are doing some on-site, but they may also be doing some off-site work. So we try to make sure, and obviously if there's going to be a victim, they're not going to be attending the same school.
In your experience, Bob, if a teacher has the right to know, would they be supervising this particular?
We would have a lot of different supervision pieces built into their day.
Okay. I'm thinking sports activity, locker room activity.
Hallway transitions are monitored. Fortunately, I've had a lot of experience with this in the larger.
Even kidnapping? It just boggles my mind. I guess it must be needed because...
Like I said, very rare, but
Yeah.
not that it hasn't happened.
Oh, it's sad.
Yeah.
Not here, but necessarily, but in other places, yeah.
Well, since it is a policy that we need to have, I will move that we approve policy 3144, release of information concerning student sexual and kidnapping offenders.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve new policy 3144, release of information student section vendors. Is there any? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that policy is approved. We have one discussion item tonight. It's the Pullman Paraprofessionals Association Collective Bargaining Agreement presented by Superintendent Maxwell.
Just a second, I'll get right to that. Click the wrong button. All right, well, that's reloading. I'm pleased to announce that we've worked to obtain a 3-year agreement with the Pullman Paraprofessionals. Oh, there we are. And I'm just going to hit the highlights of what the difference is. You hopefully had an opportunity to do effective summary. It includes specific a lot of these, what I call administrative things, are payroll deduction, required an employee roster, electronic things, safety protection, mainly don't do that because something where
With the study
how they have the
Okay.
option.
and this appreciation too.
Now you don't either.
The associate
Like $1.50 bucks a month, and on them
less.
or less. That's it. So that's quite a chunk of change for not being
Well, is that still required though after
No.
the Janice?
because of the Janus
No.
decision.
That's why it's taken out. This has been taken out of the collective. They're very similar language. to each
Right.
of-
Okay. I just didn't realize that it was that much.
Yeah.
Deducted even if. Okay, thank you.
Now, I
Sorry to
know
interrupt.
there's some legislation in the works right now for insurance, changing the way that it's paid for insurance. So I've heard that may be open. Just looking at this openers category down here.
Mhm.
Would that subject all of the articles negotiated, or is it just the one regarding?
Just the one regarding.
Okay.
Anyone that it may say. But typically, if it's going to be insurance, it's only going to open up. No, that's great. Working conditions, it was deletion of just not relevant information. There was new sick leave language that was incorporated. The wage schedule you've already seen. The duration is, again, a 3-year. And the reopeners. So that if there is any new legislation, it'll be interesting what happens with that.
So it's 3 years September rather than
Correct.
agreed. But I thought I saw on the full agreement that their raise affects first, is that
Correct.
right?
Yep, that's correct.
Has gone into effect then?
Yes.
Well, then, should we formalize this and make this an extra item, or is this?
I would second that motion.
You can if you want, not required.
I mean,
At this
Well,
time,
we're already
it's-
paying them.
you agreed to that in a separate one in December.
Okay.
So the financial piece was separate from the collective. It's included in here because it is part of it, but you've already approved this piece. So there's no rush to take it to action, but you could if you wanted.
I don't have any.
I mean, we won't have any action.
That means we'll have no action item
Yeah, the
next
board
time.
will take no
Okay,
action.
so I think I heard it's been moved and
Yes.
seconded that we move this item. Is there any further discussion of moving this?
That'll be nice.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this item is now an action item. Continue discussing it.
I think it's pretty simple, the changes there, so nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Unless the
Well, I
board
would
has
like to
questions.
thank Bob and leadership bargaining.
Yeah, Diane, it was the rock
Very-
star on this
Just took a
one.
lot of work,
They did a lot of work and
a lot of time.
a lot of time, but I think we have a really good product. So, Chris,
Board.
thank you very much. So pass that along.
Yeah.
Need some more
Be sure to let Diane know, will you?
I'll let Diane know when she wakes up.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess then since we do that, I move that we approve the Pullman Paraprofessional Collective Bargaining Agreement 2018 through 2021.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Pullman Paraprofessionals Association collective bargaining. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
One opposed. Right. Well, that concludes our items of discussion this evening. Under informational items, I just wanted to draw your attention to board calendar. It was highlighted now. They've added the committee assignments on there so that we'll know when this is around next December that we need to scope out committee assignments. And then the next president will be appointing January in the calendar.
Susan is our next
Yeah.
president.
So, I thought that was very helpful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I
No
think
problem.
the
I
more
figured-
things we can put on a calendar like,
I figured this way we won't
Fewer
have to go
surprises.
back and I don't have to research through years of board packets to find out. So if it made sense, hey, well, maybe we should have that in there so when it comes up, you'll know.
yep.
Perfect.
All right. And so now, if there are no objections, we will move into an executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel and negotiations. Superintendent Maxwell, how long will our
10 minutes.
10 minutes, and no action will be
Record time.
taken during this time, and the meeting will adjourn at the conclusion of the executive session. Thank you, everyone.